Our next item is 17-26. It's TWL Development.
That was me.
Good evening, board members. My name is Scott Wallenhorst, and I am with GPD Group, located at 520 South Main Street, Akron, Ohio. Here tonight on behalf of TWL Development Group to seek your approval or conditional approval based for the new proposed development that is located on the right off of Maslin Road and Graybill Road. There's currently being proposed an access off of Graybill, and then the shared current existing one off of Maslin, and a new additional one off of Maslin as well. This facility is located directly next to the Ritzman Pharmacy building and along with the old Diebold building. We have appeared in front of the Design Review Committee a couple weeks ago, and we went through and addressed all of their comments, one of them being to mirror the building that currently sits right here that would be a multi-tenant building, to have the potential proposed drive-through on the west side so that cars stacking would have adequate room to do so. We have addressed that comment. We have also addressed the comments in regards to any lighting concerns. We've added a proposed sidewalk back along this side to get pedestrians from either location back and onto the site. We have provided the adequate screening around the dumpster enclosures, along with the requested screening that we went around the patio. Actually, I can show that on a landscaping plan a little better. We have also added the fence to all of the drawings. We've had that in there from day one by providing enough fencing around the property to buffer the neighboring parcels. And I also have a section to show how that is being proposed to be screened. There is a berm that will be going, sorry. There's a berm that will be going across the back of the property line to help mitigate any of the visibility to the building, along with an 8-foot high vinyl fence that will sit on top of that will be continuous all the way around the back side of the property and along the entrance side right there. We have addressed the concerns in regards to lighting, I believe I had already mentioned, and the dumpster enclosure will be made of brick to match the buildings being proposed, along with the dumpster gates will be a metal that will also match either a clear anodized aluminum color or a dark bronze or some form of a bronze color. These are the proposed elevations that we're seeking for the development. The rear would be a main anchor tenant, potentially a grocery store. The other side of it would be a couple of various different tenants. And then this building right up here being designed by a potential person that would be purchasing this little parcel or leasing it off. So while the design isn't clearly stated on this, we have already stated and agreed to that it will match the remainder of the development in colors, materials, and such. When we were originally here back in January, just to do a preliminary review of the site, we did hear the comments in regards to a traffic study, so we did do a traffic study for the site and have provided that along with any comments that we had received after the first round of review. I did also just receive another round of review for comments tonight, and we will be sure to address any of those comments and provide that back to the planners that we've been working with. The other point I'd like to make is that the current building setback is only required to be 25 feet, and the building that we're proposing is sitting 99 foot 8 inches from the property line. So we are proposing an additional amount of buffering between the residential behind here, along with the mound and the fencing, and then the building itself. This here is proposed to be a pickup area for the potential grocer that they are speaking with. And what that would be is, as opposed to having to have cart corrals out in the parking lot, this specific tenant or grocer would have where you would walk out to, you leave your cart inside with your groceries, you then pull up, they load your groceries into your car, and you're able to drive away. So that is what this little covered area is. If that tenant does not end up moving forward, that element would not be there at that point. This time I'll open it up for any questions.
Okay, before that, we'll cede the floor to staff and let them add what they will.
Okay. Great coverage of the project, Scott. Just to go over, this is a B2 zone, so we do have a retail, restaurant, and the use of drive-through facilities, which are all conditionally permitted in that B2 district. So we do have a reason for a public hearing here at this time. So just to briefly cover it also, brick, stone, we have all coverage of primary materials on all sides here, a four-sided building, so we're looking at, exceeding the code requirements for the primary materials. Other issues such as parking and landscaping and buffering and all those sorts of things seem to be in order. We do not have any signage at this time. They will have to come back separately for signage review for main ID sign. Probably the other biggest issue here would be the traffic circulation. We do have the use of Grable Road in this case, which would provide the easiest, if you want to go south on Masson Road, to go out there to the signalized intersection there versus left-hand turns coming out of the two southern drives there. So with that, we would recommend conditional approval of the project based on final engineering approval of proven plans and stormwater calculations. The other thing is that there's a one large 7-acre tract, and there's a small 2-acre, two other parcels that would need to be consolidated, and that would be something that would be necessary as well. We are looking to restrict the left-hand turns out of that shared driveway, with trying to get people over to Grable Road instead at the signal. Other things such as showing the gas and electric service, and we will see final drawings of the HVAC units when those get completed and finalized, as well as building elevations of the fast food restaurant, which we'll have to come through here again if it's way out of whack with kind of what we're seeing already, but we'll have to take a look at that as well. So basically with that, we'd consider any other comments that might be heard here tonight.
Sure. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. So I will be opening this up to the audience for comments. Before that, though, I think I'd like to have commission members offer questions and comments.
If I understand, the staff wants right turn only in that shared drive, but that will be full access ingress, is that correct?
Right.
It's currently full access,
It's
okay?
currently.
What we're looking at is right in, right out, and
Right.
preferred direct left turn movements northbound. So left turn movements out
Okay,
to Grable Road. That'd be the safest thing to do.
okay.
Left turn in
Left turn in,
would not matter. It does not matter.
going north.
Right.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, can we open this up, this alternative stormwater management? What is the city's position and the developer? And Mr. Chorter has some experience in this. I'm kind of curious about alternative stormwater management for this project.
I'm not sure exactly what they were proposing.
I don't think they were really proposing anything. It was just a suggestion of,
Or let me tell you where that came from. Design Review Board was looking at this, and there's always stormwater quality and stormwater management. What we're seeing, the best route to handle that is stormwater quality through some type of bioswale, bioretention basin above ground that you can maintain and see, and then the stormwater quality or the stormwater management, i.e. the quantity of it to reduce the flows, can be underground. So that's what kind of we were talking about with them. And I think they said they would be looking at some type of alternative. That's what we mean by alternative, not just everything underground.
Where are you with that, sir?
We are currently, we have not gotten into final design yet. We were coming here tonight to at least see the viability of everything and any major questions or concerns. We do have a bio retention basin shown right here at this shown right here at this location on the site, and we are in discussions about doing something up in front here, and that would not be anything that would be large or obtrusive or anything like that. And then any other areas that we could achieve anything like that on the site, given the grade, it would be a little tough in certain locations, but we are open to looking into that as we continue to finalize our design.
Staff would like a mix of both?
Here, again, I'll go back, the quality controls, we prefer to see those above ground. Okay? The stormwater management, which is really the quantity of holding back any flows from the hard surface, is okay to go underground. It's
Okay.
theoretically, the quality system cleans it, it's stored underground and then released at a certain rate. So that's what we're looking for.
Okay.
And they agreed to be looking at that. I think they've got part of it in there. They just don't have the full calculations.
Okay.
Yeah, EPA actually requires that now, so you don't really have a choice. In the old days, you could put total underground parking, you can't do that anymore. That's why he's talking about impervious or pervious pavement for that reason. And also the bioswales is kind of the other way to do it, but it's required by EPA. It's not really an option anymore.
Is this sort of what they did at the Strip with Outback out front? They put stormwater,
I'm not
it was
that familiar
underground.
with it. I think if you go to City Hall for New Franklin, you'll see they put pervious pavement in. That's another way to deal with it. I'm doing a couple projects right now downtown Akron, kind of the same thing, because it's a requirement now from EPA. One question I would have for you is the delivery hours, especially because you're going to have trucks back there next to the houses. What are the hours, and, I mean, are there going to be trucks out there backing up at 6 o'clock in the morning?
That has not been finalized or determined yet based on the final tenants at this time, but we are willing to be a good neighbor and work with the planning commission or anyone else that has concerns over that to hear any potential hours that you may be open to or would like to restrict it.
Okay.
Does staff have any recommendations on restricted delivery hours so that they're not happening at 3 a.m.?
Probably would be wise, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
if you-
reasonable.
If you look at, noise ordinance starts, I think, at 6 or 7. So 6 or 7 deliveries and any type of pickups could occur. And I normally try to do that in the morning before there are actually, clients or customers within. So, yeah, if you want to put a restriction on there about deliveries and pickups, because again, trash is another issue that I don't know how many people actually do it at the middle of the night. I'm not out, but you could ask that no deliveries, no pickups before 6 a.m.
Okay, yeah, that'll be something to address. I want to just ask you about the impact study. So who performed that?
That was done by our company, GPD Group.
Okay, so did they take into account the 190 apartments just south of you, Boulevard at Green? I mean, they're not technically operating yet, but I mean, that certainly is, they're months away from delivering. Was that taken into account, that traffic?
The traffic was taken into account for the year of this opening at 2018 with any potential development going on currently.
Very good. And then I didn't catch whether you were willing to accommodate the city's request for the right out on that middle.
We're open to having that discussion. I know that is currently a shared access drive with the neighboring parcel. So that is something that has been, they've initially started the discussions with the neighboring owner, and there's been no agreement at this time. Again, we're willing to work with the neighbor, work with the city to find out a resolution that everyone could be open to and willing to at this point.
You'd be open to the motion containing language to that effect that it's a right out only? Because
I can't commit to that because I'm not currently the neighboring parcel owner or the future parcel owner. That's something that would have to be, I mean, again, it's being, the discussion has started, final solution and determination has not been made at this time. So I can't personally commit. I mean,
If this was approved, we'd sit down with both owners and see what could be worked out.
Okay, so you're willing to go that route?
We've talked to both owners about it, so.
Need
so
not
hopefully-
be hard and fast
Yes,
tonight?
Right, no,
Okay.
I mean, I think the key is that we control that access point, and, again, it's full access right now, but I think with more and more vehicles, that it should be at least that left out. The left out is our biggest concern and the safety issue.
Okay. Okay, I think at this point, I'll open it up to the audience for questions and comments. And if you would, just walk up here, again, state your name and address. Limit your comments to 3 minutes, and we'll begin.
Hi, Jane Weaver, 4013 April Drive, and I feel a little ambushed by this. Years ago, when Acme wanted to come in and put a grocery store on that corner down there, there was a vote, and we voted it down because we didn't want a grocery store on this side of the road. And I'm going to live directly behind this, and the noise and from trucks, and now you're talking about a drive-through. I'm wondering what the hours are on that. So I feel that, you know, we voted a grocery store down twice in that area, and we were not even consulted about this. And the other concern is when you put this in, if you put this in, probably will, the drainage issues. We've just put thousands of dollars in for drainage in our yards because of the bad drainage. And it's good you're having a berm and a fence, but we don't want the water coming down into us after we've already, you know, had to put money into this. Thank you.
My name's Michael Klein. I live at 4003 April Drive. Bottom line, guys, I don't want this in my backyard. We live in a quiet neighborhood. I don't want to wake up every morning and look at a big white fence. I don't want the lights. I don't want the noise. And I doubt any of you would want it in your backyards either. How many grocery stores do we need on Maslin Road? I shop at Acme. Frankly, I'm surprised that store's still open because there aren't a lot of people in there shopping. If we put another store in, are we building a building that, yeah, it'll have a tenant for a year or two and then it'll be empty? I don't want a dumpster back there. I don't want delivery trucks. That's my home. I want it to be quiet. And this is too much. It's absolutely too much. And as Jane said, we live right next door to one another. There's drainage problems at the back of that property. If this is built, that water has nowhere to go. They're talking about a berm and a fence. Where are you going to put that water? Where would it possibly drain to other than back onto our properties? I understand everything on that's being built would probably drain towards Maslin, but you're talking about close to 100 feet between our property lines in the back and what they're building. That's just going to pool water. It's pooling water right now. It's disgusting. We all know Green has water problems. You know, this is just ridiculous. I too feel ambushed. I wish we would have had a heads up on this. I think if people in our neighborhood were aware that this was going on, you'd have a lot more people here. And frankly, right now, I'm going to try my best to make everybody aware of what they want to build there and try to raise some resistance to this project because this is just a bad idea. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Des Wertheimer. I don't live in this area. I live at 130 East Turkey Foot, which is across the street from the current Bueller's at South Main Plaza. If you know where John Swamp is, I'm the big house in the woods behind there. okay? They're talking about a group, well, that's where I'm at. The reason I told you that is because of this. They're talking about a grocery store with delivery. The only one I know of is Bueller's. So let me tell you what happens after hours there. 11 o'clock comes the parking lot sweeper. He sweeps for an hour, hour and a half. Truck deliveries that are coming for the next day start arriving between 11:30 and midnight, and they sit in the parking lot till 4 a.m. And at 4:30 to 5:30, deliveries just hit on and on and on. Now, I live 300 feet off the road, and I've got the swamp in front and all the trees and that. So does it bother me where I'm at necessarily? Nah. But these folks are going to be right on top of them. And that's how these big things work. They're cleaning the parking lot. Deliveries trucks are sitting all hours waiting to get unloaded. And you may say 6 o'clock to start, but I guarantee there's going to be trucks sitting out there at 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, plus the plow guys whenever. And the hours you're suggesting need to be really strict, because if they're going to have to put up with the complete change of their entire lifestyle with this development behind them, I would hope that you'd at least sit on the deliveries and the trucks and all things that come with it, because there's a lot more that comes with it than what is advertised. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Doug Weaver. I'm at 4013 April Drive also, directly behind the proposed strip mall. I'm just a little confused about the whole zoning thing. When we bought the house 24 or 5 years ago, at that time, the property behind us was already zoned B2, and we were asking, what's B2 mean? And the real estate agent and I believe also people we spoke to in the city said, well, B2 is just for things like office buildings, dentist's office, funeral homes, no retail. So I'm just confused. What does B2 mean?
Could you guys help answer that question generally?
Well, B2 it's defined as B2 office. However, the uses under the Land Development Code have certain uses such as retail, grocery stores. I shouldn't use the word grocery store.
Go ahead.
Restaurants that are conditionally permitted, meaning that we're notifying the adjacent property owners and telling them this is what's proposed to go there.
So it basically means nothing.
No, it means that there's a notification process. If it's permitted right out, it means that basically it's a permitted use. If it was a B1 zone, it's a permitted use. There's no notifications, if you will. When it's conditionally permitted, it means there's a notification, and there's a little bit more discussion.
Okay. If this comes through, what recourse do we have to objecting or having this rejected?
Well,
We can say, obviously speaking as the people directly behind it, we are appalled that this is happening. We are extraordinarily disappointed in our city because obviously there's been meetings been going on for this for months and nothing's been disclosed to the neighborhood until tonight. So very, very disappointed in the city of Green. Thank you.
My name's Sam Ross. I live at 4023 April Drive. I'm kind of like Doug. I'm kind of shell-shocked that this has been going on for months with nothing being said, letting property owners know that this is coming down the road, that we would be able to maybe voice our opinions, but it almost sounds like this is done deal. You know, when I remember the rezoning, it was said office buildings. I don't recall them saying anything about restaurants and grocery stores, drive-throughs. That's all going to be noise. You say you'll restrict it, but my son and I were just talking. We hear the trash haulers at 3, 4 in the morning dumping around in this area. you hear the backup alarms. Those trucks coming in to make deliveries, you're gonna hear those backup alarms going off. And then the trucks run all the time. It's just gonna be a mess for us. I don't see how you can present something to restrict that. Best thing is, let's go back and just do office buildings. I'm not in favor of this. I would really like to know what our options are as far as objecting to it. I mean, you guys vote on it, we're stuck, or do we have another option after this?
The planning commission does have the right to approve it tonight. That's kind of the way it's set up, is for a site plan, that the planning commission is the approving agency. So, you know, that's up to these gentlemen up here to decide. They could table it, but there's got to be a reason to table that as well. For improvements, for something else, they could deny it. So,
Why weren't we invited to comment early on this project?
it's just the process. When it's a conditionally permitted use, that's when it comes to a hearing, we notify the adjacent property owners.
But it's kind of almost too late now. I mean, you guys can vote and we're stuck.
It's not too late, as Mr. Wallenhurst indicated. There's some items that a developer doesn't complete because he's not sure where he stands. So we then approve that conditionally if, in fact, it does get the approval or conditional approval, because then they finish it up. But it's not complete. It's not also, it's not a done deal either.
Well, you basically said unless you have something to, make a change to the plan, it's
Well,
going
to table it doesn't, I mean, the developer would have to come back and say, we're changing the plan, or somebody would want to change the plan. I'm just saying that, that's an option to table. you got to have a reason that you're tabling, or are you going to change X, Y, or Z? That's all.
very disappointing, I gotta say.
Hi, my name is Sandy Klein, and I live directly behind this property as well, 4003 April Drive. My husband already spoke. Originally, when we came here, we were worried about the drainage problem. You can go there after any type of rain, and that area is very swampy. So we were worried about that, and, we thought, like everyone else on our street, that it was going to be office buildings, and we've been told that. The drainage, I've contacted the city about the drainage multiple times, and I'm just appalled as well. Like, I feel totally ambushed by this. We have woods behind us right now. Yeah, we've been blessed to have that. I can see Ritzman behind my house. It's directly behind me. Haven't had any problems with that whatsoever. But in the summer, and I can hear Brew Breakers, which is across the street, across Maslin Road. I can hear Brew Breakers at my house. When the leaves all fall off in the fall, I can see all of that. I can see the Brew Bakers from my house. So now you're telling me you're going to put a strip mall, basically, right behind my house, when I already have all these other problems. Disappointed and very, very upset by this. Thank you.
My name's Mindy Moulton. I live at 1034 East Turkey Foot Lake Road, and while I'm not here for this, I thought it might help them. I just pulled out my phone, and I looked up on the zoning districts the code for the definition of B1, and I would like to read The B1 General Business District is established to accommodate a wide range of commercial development, along with outdoor storage and display in select areas, so as not to disrupt or intrude upon residential areas. The purposes of this district are to promote, upgrade, and maintain the functional and aesthetic qualities of the district through the use of site plan review and to protect the residential character of adjacent areas. I know you guys know this, but for their sake and feeling a little empathetic at this point, I know that allowances can be made, but what they were saying earlier, someone about making sure that strict regulation about the noise and maybe the water problem should be addressed, maybe that would be a reason to table it. I'm not exactly sure, but I definitely think that this is a concern that probably should be addressed before going further. Thanks.
So the applicant, if you would just step up. You may wish to speak to the issue of drainage.
Yes, I was actually going to bring that up. So what we have done thus far, as far as the drainage goes, is there are catch basins that are placed along this back part of the property line to capture any of the drainage that comes on from the other side of that berm. We'll be more than happy to have our civil engineers look at this again to ensure that we're capturing the water. I mean, we can't allow it to go there. So we will make sure that any of those catch basins, if we need to add additional ones, if there's some other type of drainage method that we can implement to ease the concerns, we're more than willing to look into it and try to accomplish that.
Any additional comments, questions, commission members?
Well, I'll speak up. So when you guys came in front of us for just a preliminary, an observation review, biggest concern I had was obviously the large building with the huge giant wall in the back. And I think at that point I made some concerns about breaking that up into smaller pieces. And I noticed that you moved it up a little bit, but that just made it into a service alley as opposed to putting parking back there. And I said, and from right now, I still can't support this with that big giant wall in the back. I wouldn't want that in my backyard, and I'm not sure that's the appropriate use for this property. Was there any conversation about changing it to address some of the concerns that we had?
I mean, we moved the building forward to try to pull it away from the residential further. We added the berm. We've added the fencing from a screening perspective so that they're not seeing directly this expansive wall that you're speaking of. We have broken up the facade a little bit back there in terms of adding some relief to it, so it's not just one big expansive wall. That's where we've taken it at this time. If there's any other ideas or comments or concerns, we're more than willing to entertain those and try to accomplish more of an aesthetic building from the backside, but it is the backside of a building, so we've done what we feel is adequate for it. Around the rest of the building, I mean, if there's anything we can look at, we will, and then try to accomplish that, and we'll work with planning staff in regards to that.
Staff, just talk to us a little bit about when something is conditionally permitted, how ought we to look at this when we gauge whether the conditions of that use are met in a district?
Well, if you're talking about the conditions of the district or the conditional use, the conditional uses, as I mentioned, it requires us to notify all adjacent property owners that it is a conditionally permitted use, that all the neighbors are invited to come and attend, and that's the conditional use. Now, conditions are a different thing.
Conditioned upon what, though? I mean, it's a use that is permitted upon what conditions being met? Is that a fair question? Are my understanding this correctly?
I guess I'm not following. I mean, I'm just, the
I mean,
idea is.
I understand that if it's a conditional use that we notify.
Right, and
But-
that's the main aspect of it. There's no conditions, set conditions that say this is what you have to meet in order to be there.
All right,
I think it's just
Have-
terminology.
okay, all right.
Had this been an office complex, theoretically, they could have been 25 feet off that rear property line, which is closer than what this is.
But there wouldn't be any trucks.
There wouldn't.
There'd still be-
There wouldn't be any trucks.
Well, I
Still be-
understand, I know.
Yeah.
So by conditions, we mean anything that we would require of the applicant to satisfy the
Yeah,
aesthetic.
and you can place some
needs.
conditions on it as well.
And the particular problem here is its border to the residential area. I mean, it's a legal use of the land. The question is, how do you reduce the impact on the residences?
Where else might we have this, Wayne, in the city?
Well, there's, within, if you look in the code, there's various areas that are always conditionally permitted in just about every district. So,
Where else do we have a B2, abutting an R1?
That whole side of Maslin Road there, I
Yeah.
mean, where this is, you have,
Probably the-
The east side?
you have like the
Probably the
Greenview
east
Inn
side
and
completely,
that
yes.
sort of thing.
All right, just for clarification.
other,
This building here is B2 right here, I mean, right?
yeah. There's probably most of Arlington Road is B1, I mean, for the most part.
Well, let's get the conversation, if you're going to speak, up to the
Arlington and Bella
microphone.
Road is not, it's B3.
To the architects present here, is there any palatable, sound attenuation wall that could be, that could be placed across the back that you used or know of?
I guess what form of wall are you referring to? Are you referring to a
Well,
brick
I'm
wall
not,
or?
you know how Department of Transportation, I'm not suggesting something like that
Okay, I'm
to
following
that
you
scale,
now.
but
Right.
they construct these walls that are meant to mitigate against sound from roads. And is there anything like that that's been used, or have you used it from time to time, or is that?
Not for this type of a use. I mean, they are used, but not, I've never seen one used in a development such as this.
You said it's the back wall, and when you said that, it made my mind immediately go to a comment that our current mayor, Gerard Nugentbar, when he sat here on this commission with me, he said that there is no such thing in the city as a back wall. And many times we've had this discussion right across the street at the Acme. You can just go over there and see all four walls are able to be seen, and all four walls have had attention paid to them. The back wall doesn't have any less value than the front as far as the city is concerned,
Okay.
these residents. Mr. Chorter, I thought, made that very clear months ago when you initially came. And building on that, to the people of April Drive and anyone who else is listening to this, there isn't any backroom closed discussion going on here. All these meetings are open to the public. This came months ago. So if you care about your community, you need to watch or attend these meetings and you'll know what's going on.
If you would, no, we have your name.
Okay. In regards to notification, it's my understanding that the only people that receive letters are people that have property that's contiguous to the affected property, correct?
Correct.
Okay. This will also affect the people that live across the street from me. It will affect everyone in my neighborhood. It's going to affect property values. Noise levels will be up. As my wife stated, we have to listen to Brewbaker's Pub. We have to listen to Legends. I have to listen to motorcycles going up and down Maslin Road on bike night. This has an effect on everybody in my neighborhood. And yes, I should be more aware of things going on, but I don't always have time to come to these meetings. I rely on the city to be more communicative with this information, to let us know what's going on. And my gripe this evening is, we got a letter that didn't tell us anything. It didn't tell us what was going in here. It just had basic information. I had no idea what was going to happen tonight. So had I known that, I would have talked to more of my neighbors, and I would have had more of them here to speak out, because I guarantee you, none of them know what's going on. So, you know, at the very least, I would ask you, please table this thing. Let us talk it up in our neighborhood, and I can assure you, you'll hear from more of my neighbors about their feelings on this project, but please don't do anything on this tonight. You know, give us some time to make it known to you how we feel about it. And I think it'll help you guys to make a better decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, twice is fine if you want to come up twice, and then we'll restrict to that.
I just wanted to talk about the drainage problem again. We did have work done in our backyard because of the drainage problem. And the person who did the work also told us that he's still doing work from where SUMA, April Drive at the end of SUMA, they're still having drainage problems in their backyards. And they just had to have a special request. They had to talk to SUMA. They had all this stuff they had to do to tie into the sewer on Bettler Road. How long has SUMA been there? And those property owners on April Drive have still had drainage problems from that.
Sure.
Rick Miller, I live at 4043 April Drive, the far right-hand corner of this project. And I wasn't planning to speak when I came, but my request is just like he just spoke, to table this and allow for more community awareness. Your point is perfect. Everybody should be more aware of what's going on. I completely agree with that. But I would love, I think this project is going to could potentially have drastic effect on property value on both sides of April Drive. I think that's a fair point, and I think that's my request, is that the group would table it for more awareness to be created in our neighborhood. So that's my request.
Jane Weaver, I spoke before. Again, my main problem with this whole thing is the fact of a grocery store. I mean, we were expecting businesses, 9 to 5 businesses, and that kind of thing. And why you'd want another grocery store in Green, and to put it there next to residential. And someone said something about a fast food. Again, that's against residential. And those are the things that worry me. And as Sandy said, I mean, we have noise now. Biker night is terrible at Legends. We hear all that. We hear the dump trucks over here, or the garbage trucks in the morning. And to have trucks behind us in the morning, that's not right. You know, we don't need a grocery store here. And like I said before, we fought it before, and the city of Green got to vote on it when Acme wanted in there. And they voted it down twice because it would be against residential. And why that wasn't brought up to more people to have a vote for is my question. Thank you.
We have somebody from the audience who wants to speak.
I just have one more comment about the fact that it's grocery and fast food and that. There's going to be a lot of garbage. There's going to be a lot of smell. how are they going to accommodate us on that? I don't want to go be standing out in my backyard smelling garbage all the time. And I think that's something you should take into consideration, especially, the grocery stores, stuff goes bad, they got to throw it out. It's going to be smelly. It's a 90-degree day, not going to be nice. Just something to throw out there.
Commission members, I'm going to just sort of poll the board here as far as do you think we ought to
I would
list?
definitely, I have drainage issues of my own at my house. So, I mean, I've got a portion of my backyard that's a retention basin for a couple of my neighbors. So I can understand that. You're hitting home with that. So I would definitely like to see a more detailed plan of the drainage that you're going to address back here on these houses.
Okay.
Because that's a lot of surface area with the paving and that kind of thing, so.
And I should add, I mean, the reason we would table it would be that we don't have the information tonight that we need to vote in an informed way.
Yeah, I'd like to make it very clear that I would not support tabling this because there's some notion that the city didn't do what they needed to do with respect to the proper notification. The city did exactly what it was supposed to do about notifying residents. It'd have to be for a substantive matter regarding what these conditions need to be. And whether there are 10 people here against or 40, they're all seemingly ending up in the same general categories. 1, nuisance, what they see, what they hear, what they smell. 2, drainage, and then the third issue, which is the right turn, the left turn onto Massillon, so the traffic issue. I think we need some clarification on that because, again, like Commissioner Garetano mentioned before, no wall is a back wall. Even when we boarded on businesses, we've required folks like InfoCision to do something that's more aesthetically appealing to folks leaving parking lots. Well, these are residential neighborhoods we need to be concerned about.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said, but I guess my thing is still that big box up against a residential neighborhood. I just don't think I could ever support that. It needs to be broken up. It needs to be a different use. So I don't think tabling it's not going to do anything for me. It's not going to change my mind.
Unless the project changed in terms of how it was proposed. So address some of those issues.
See, I'm okay with, some of the restaurants and everything up on the front. It's just when it gets back, when it's right up against the neighborhood, that's when I start to have a problem with it. And obviously I don't know how to solve your problem for you. That's your issue, but I just don't like that big, you made it brick and you put a couple of indentations in it, a couple pilasters, but it's still going to be a giant brick wall in the back. And I don't know how you solve that problem.
I mean,
It's the use in the back, I guess, is the problem I'm having.
I agree. There are some ways you could solve it. I mean, we could add some different architectural elements back there. We could add some additional rain screens. We could look at putting, the only problem would be is we wouldn't want to have any clear glass back there because obviously that's going to
It's the back of the
give
store,
some
yeah.
visibility into a back of house of a store or something like that. Doing some spandrel windows along that area could be discussed with the owner. At that point, though, I would just like to point out that it's probably all going to be below that fence line at that point. It's more what would be going on up at top. But, I mean, we can discuss that with the owner to see what we may be able to do to help the look of that back there.
I'm not sure that's going to change my mind. So.
What would change your mind, sir?
I don't know. I mean, when they were in front of us several months ago, I was kind of opposed to just the overall scale of the building.
I think development of this side, of this.
I mean, a grocery store just isn't this isn't the right location for a grocery store. I mean, a smaller building, broken up into different things, a different use group, so you're not putting trucks back there. If I don't know if anybody would be upset if it was if the dentist office was back there. I bet everybody here would probably be in favor of that.
Mm-hmm.
But having putting trucks and and big dumpsters. I mean, you know what those things are like.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's probably not the right use for this site.
Mr. Chorter has voiced.
I'm only one of.
No. I
of
actually,
five,
I
too.
actually voiced the very same concern when you were in front of us the last time, and I just asked if you would consider moving that, if that was going to be the building, move it toward the front of the site. And you're the architect, and this is where it ended up. But I too can't support the mass of that building and what it and the purpose it serves in that proximity to an R1 district. Unless that were addressed, I wouldn't be able to support this either.
So if I understand, both of you are completely against this building, this scope of this building on this site in any footprint, anywhere on this site? The building is just too big, is that what you're saying? No matter how he decorates it?
Yeah, I don't think decorating it's going to help any. Could you move it to another part of the site? I mean, top of my head, probably it doesn't look like it.
The site very well, it probably just is not deep enough for something this tall and that long.
So shifting it any way,
No, I don't.
East and
I don't
west
wanna-
isn't
I
gonna
don't think
make
you're
any
gonna wanna
difference.
put a drive-through restaurant back that far either, because it has no visibility to the street, and then you're moving the traffic back further. So just rearranging those boxes on the site's probably not gonna do it.
the more we can open up this discussion, tomorrow morning when you wake up, you have an idea of where you're gonna go. So,
Understand. I mean, we did look at moving the building in different locations on the site. It didn't work necessarily from a grading standpoint, being the expansive size that it is. Putting it closer to the front of the site makes the back part of the site unusable because you have to have the parking requirements, and putting your parking at the back of on the back of a grocery store so that customers have to walk all the way around isn't feasible. Putting an entrance on the back of there doesn't necessarily work for most grocers' layouts. They only typically have about one entrance, either on the corner or in the middle of their building, somehow justified. So at that point, it would really make the site an unusable site, or it wouldn't make it, allow it to be developed properly. And we moved it forward another 20, I think it was 25 feet from where we originally had proposed it. I know that's not as far forward, but still just kind of with where, to get the required parking on the site and such, it's just kind of where we had to do it. I can offer this up if something, if that grocer does not end up moving forward, that drive-through there. And this would only be if a grocer did not come to there that they're currently speaking with. At that time, this would be allowed to be, the curb would be at this location, and shifting this forward a little bit more. wouldn't
just
be
a second, let him catch up to you.
sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
If this grocer that they're speaking with doesn't end up moving forward, the elimination of this would occur at that point. So to continue the curbing around this portion right here of the site and shifting the building further a little bit more forward, at that point can occur, giving more buffering from the residential area. And it's not going to, at that point, affect any of the parking that we currently have slated and that we're required to have or anything like that. So that's one thing I can offer up, but that's only if a grocer at this point doesn't move forward with it. And that's not final at this point, but I can at least say that we're willing to entertain that idea of moving it forward if that does not occur.
A specialty grocer, what does that look like? That's not an Acme, that's not a,
Boutique grocer.
Yes, I unfortunately can't give
I understand.
names or anything like that at this point. But yes, it's like a boutique type grocery store. One, like I pointed out, they don't have cart corrals in their parking lots. I mean, they have that drive-up service for their customers. I mean, so.
And they've got delivery trucks too, though.
Are they box trucks or semis?
I couldn't tell
So
you.
I think we know enough about the site and how you're proposing it tonight. I mean, the access, at the different locations, that can be worked out with the city. The drainage can be worked out. I mean, I think we know enough about how it's being presented tonight. I'll let it up to you if you want to table this and come back to us with something different. Otherwise, we'll put it to a vote tonight, just as it's being proposed.
Can I have a moment to speak with my client on that?
My name is Wali Lavaviri. I'm the president of TWL Investments, and I'd like to, I heard all the concerns from the neighborhood and from the board. And I'd like to voice, we've been working on this for over a year. We appeared here about a year ago, and you guys gave us your recommendations. I also have investments in this community. I have a lot of property not far from here, and I don't want my property value to go down either. And I don't think this will bring the value of this neighborhood down. If anything, it might improve it. The things that has been brought up, the drainage issue, I think we'll address that, and we're more than willing to do more to prevent the water from coming back into the neighbors. The back of the building, we addressed that. We made it look as nice as the front. We've used brick. We've used the same architectural feature that are in the front. We've moved the building about 100 feet to the front. We've allowed for a lot of green space to allow for space. We've been very attentive to the needs of the board and the community. Drainage, the topography, the way the building is, it's going to go towards Massillon Road rather than going back to the neighbors in the back. So I don't think that's going to be as much of an issue. However, I think the engineers will work on that to bring. The other consideration is the grocer we're talking to is an upscale grocer. I think we've talked about examples. We can't disclose the name. It's a smaller footprint. It's not an Acme. It's not a Giant Eagle. It's a smaller footprint. They will promote more of the food, kind of the district market on a nicer scale. They have different type of food, specialty food, like health food, for example, or fruit baskets. They're upper scale. It's not Trader Joe's, but we're targeting that caliber of grocer, something that Green doesn't have now. The noise factor, I think we addressed with the dirt. We're mounting a dirt back there. We're elevating the back of the property. We're putting a lot of trees, a lot of greenery, and I think you recommended more, which we're doing more, and we put an 8-foot wall. So if I remember correctly, last time we were here, we spoke that just because the slope, and we're that far away from the back with the wall, I don't think you can even see the back of the building from the neighbor in the back. Is that correct?
There's a possibility to see a small portion of the top of it. However, if you look at this section right here, this is where the existing grading where we're proposing the grading to go. So you can see how the grade drops down at this location right here, and that's where we're proposing to add those catch basins in that area and such. This is the property line of the neighboring property, so you can see how the land actually kind of slopes up a little bit to that property line at that location. The elevation of the mound is about 5 feet, and then you've got another 8 foot of the fence. So that's the total elevation that you would see of this fence along the back of that property line. The maximum building height at that location is 24 foot is the parapet at this location on the back. That element that you saw from the elevations, the tower element is only on the front portion of the building, right in that location, which you can see from the back as well, but it's pushed further up to the building.
So just because of the nature of the land, the building will set lower because it's about 100 foot away from the back edge of the property, and the structures we're building, I doubt that you're going to see any of that building, if that's a concern of people looking at that wall. The other concern that was brought up was the noise from the trucks. No matter what we do back there, there's still going to be trash to be collected. There's still going to be deliveries. So I don't know the difference between a grocer rather than anybody else. And like we said, we're in talks. We haven't finalized, and the grocer might never materialize. There might be something else planned back there.
I think the difference is that an office complex, a dentist, and an accountant may not be getting deliveries at 2 in the morning.
We spoke about that, but we have we have plenty of office space in Green. I think Green needs more of a retail space than office at this point. It's a viability of the project. We put more office space, I mean, the Richmond building next to us is empty, and, you go to Corporate Parkway, and there's still a lot of office space available. So yes, we can do an office space, but is it gonna fill? I mean, from an economic standpoint, that's where and just because we acquired the property from SUMA, they have done some limitations, a lot of limitations, which limit us for what we can put back there as an office space. We can't do anything to do with medical or related services. So that also limits us of what we can do. So these are the challenges of this. We're not being insensitive. We're trying to accommodate and be as sensitive as we can to the neighbors. We don't want anyone's property value to drop. But it is an empty property, and if we don't do this project, somebody else is going to come later and try to do it, because this is a pretty viable corridor. It's a valuable piece of property, and we're willing to work with the neighbors. We're willing to do whatever it takes to accommodate their needs. But however, I don't think we can promise them everything they're asking for. It's still going to be a commercial property. There's still going to be some noise, no matter what we put in there. And I hope that the committee takes that into consideration.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So I hear us moving forward on a vote tonight. And if there are no further questions or comments, feel free to introduce those, but I'll entertain a motion on this project.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move favorably for item 1726 with the following conditions. Final engineering approval of site improvement plans and stormwater calculations. Consolidation of the 3 existing properties into one single parcel. Restrict the shared drive to allow right turn egress only and full access ingress. Show gas and electric service to the building. This means underground. Provide final HVAC equipment and utility meter locations and screening as necessary. Provide building elevations of the fast food restaurant for review prior to final approval. Provide additional trees near the playground as needed for shade. Provide bronze dumpster gates to match the building colors. No deliveries between the hours of 11 p.m. and 6 a.m., 7 days a week. A stormwater management maintenance agreement. That concludes the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Garetano, would you want to relax the requirement of right-out only on that middle drive and let that to the discretion of the city to work that out with the developer?
I can do that, sir. I'll amend that.
Do we have a second on this?
Second.
Okay. Could we have a roll call, Nicole?
Mr. Garetano.
Yes.
Mr. Babbitt.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
No.
Mr. Shorter.
No.
Mr. Kuwatch.
Yes.